For work together 3-2, we're going to be doing 3 more transactions for the month of April for the same company that we did in 3-1. So you'll notice the 2 transactions from 3-1 are in the journal, and we'll just be working our way down the journal chronologically. So as you're completing the work together in your purple papers, you'll continue on the same piece of paper right below line 2. Okay, so our first transaction, we bought supplies on account from Supply Mart, $600 M1. Bought supplies, okay, so I know we're gonna have supplies, and then on account from Supply Mart. So we bought something and we're eventually gonna pay for it. So that's accounts payable. So this is the situation where we're gonna have to do a 2-line entry because we're not using any of our special columns. So April 5th, we always list the debit first. So I'm gonna debit supplies for 600. And then we have to have a credit, and the credit would be accounts payable. You have to have the dash, and the company is Supply Mart. And we'll credit that account for 600. The source document is M1. So anything that's in this general account title, so we have supplies, is being debited for 600. So it's labeling that general column. Accounts payable Supply Mart is being credited for 600. Liabilities, which are accounts payable, that's our only liability, increase with a credit. We're increasing the amount that we owe them. Supplies, which is an asset, increases with a debit. So we're debiting supplies for 600. We only write the 5th one time and the source document one time. You don't list it on both lines. So everything under the 5th goes together, because now we're going to move on to the 7th. On the 7th, we paid cash for insurance, $500 C2. So on the 7th, we have C2 because we wrote a check. And we wrote a check, so I know we paid cash. So I'm going to credit cash to decrease the asset, credit cash for 500. And then I'm going to debit, you have to have a debit and a credit, prepaid insurance, a debit of 500. So we have the 4 things included in a transaction: the date, a source document, a debit, and a credit. Remember, whatever account is in the account title column is labeling the corresponding number in the general columns. So prepaid insurance, a debit of 500. Our last transaction, we paid cash on account to Supply Mart, $300. So on the 9th, we wrote a check, so C3. And I like to do the special account first. So paid cash on account to Supply Mart, $300. So I'm going to credit cash for $300. And then we need to debit an account. I'm going to debit accounts payable Supply Mart. Debit their account for $300. Because accounts payable increases with a credit, so when we bought the supplies, we increased their account by $600 because we eventually need to pay them $600. Now that we're actually writing a check and paying them, we need to decrease their account by $300 that we have paid them. So that is work together 3-2. For the last 2 sections of the chapter, 3.3 and 3.4, we'll be working it in the same journal, using the same company, and continuing to journal chronologically.